Today I would like to touch upon ancient methods of construction and in particular the method of splitting huge stones by driving wedges into them, which became popular on YouTube. Modern historians picked up this interesting method for themselves and began to demonstrate it as a panacea for all inconvenient questions about ancient construction technology. Stone processing is indeed a good method, but whether the ancient builders did it and in general, how, according to scientists, the whole process of erecting ancient megalithic complexes and structures took place, let's figure it out. Technology, I decided to take a megalithic complex known at least to a wide range of people, and so Baalbek is a huge megalithic complex of structures built in ancient times in Lebanon. Official scientists say that it was built around the 1st century, but this is not accurate and was also periodically completed for centuries, either by the Romans or by someone else. As you understand, I categorically disagree with this. In the process of viewing you will understand why. To begin with, let's find out the point of view of official science, about the method of erecting the entire impossible masterpiece. Let's start with how and from where huge stone blocks weighing thousands of tons were delivered. In this particular case, the quarry in Baalbek is relatively close to the construction site. Recently, videos have become popular of how the Chinese and Indians hammer spacer wedges into huge stone blocks and those split without much effort in the blink of an eye. Many historians have taken this newly discovered method into service in order to show it to the fooled zombies for no reason, and positions it as the idea of all ancient construction. So, let's look at the data. By the way, a very interesting way to search in more detail in the right stone or billet for a plane along which it will be easiest to split, then holes of the appropriate diameter and required depth are drilled, depending on the size of the stone. Special steel wedges are carefully hammered into the holes. As the wedges are gradually driven in, the stone cracks and then it splits, but not everything is as simple as it seems at first glance. Before splitting in this way, the stone must first be extracted. That is, you are unlikely to be able to chip a huge piece from the rock, but we assume that they did it anyway, and a huge piece of rock was still chipped off. Then it was chipped to a regular quadrangle in exactly the same way. Then it still needs to be sanded and to remove all the irregularities, as well as traces of drilled holes for wedges. But the extraction of stone blocks from the rock in this way should also have left characteristic traces in the quarry itself. But what do we really see? These are traces of removed blocks. They were clearly mined in some other unknown way, because it is impossible to extract a stone from a rock in this way with modern tools. There are also strange, incomprehensible holes on the stones. Perhaps they served as some kind of mounting holes, but omit the details. Another equally difficult question arises: transportation of these blocks to the installation site. Someone will say now that it can be rolled out gradually on wooden or stone rollers, plus thousands of slaves, but if blocks weighing 300 tons of wooden or stone rollers also withstand, then what to do with thousands of tons? Any stone rink will simply collapse with them. You also need to remember that the stone rollers themselves need to be sanded and moved again. They must also have considerable weight. Even if you miss the moment with the movement, let's assume that in some fantastic way they delivered this block to the place. The right place, then you need to lift it and install an embankment at a height of 8 meters. These arguments don't matter. Which rope is suitable to lift the lightest 800-ton block? Stone rollers weigh at least 2 to 3,000 tons more, since their mass will push in the opposite direction, that is, down the slope. How many thousands of slaves and what kind of rope will be needed for this? Then the block needs to be adjusted and aligned to the millimeter. Isn't the load too great for ancient slaves? And then I was interested in the question of what modern means now exist for lifting such masses. How does the process of lifting and moving happen in general? By what means? Cranes with a lifting capacity of about 50 tons are mainly used in conventional construction. This is quite enough for all major types of construction. Also, in some cases 200-ton cranes are used. This is the maximum limit produced by manufacturers, but there are still cranes with a lifting capacity of 1,000 and a maximum of 2,000 tons. They are produced in piece copies in only a few corporations in the world, but the maximum weight of such machines can be lifted at a minimum boom and at relatively low heights. The ground must also be solid, otherwise, crawler cranes are used. That is, even in modern construction, with all modern capabilities, people build buildings for the construction of which expensive special equipment is not required. Manufactured in single copies, but the ancients, according to scientists, did not look for easy ways. Well, okay, let's continue. The columns of the Temple of Jupiter. Unfortunately, only 6 columns have survived from the temple to this day. Their height is 22 meters and 7 meters in diameter. They are perfectly smooth and polished like glass, and not a single tool was found in them. Quarries that could do the job. In order not to make it difficult to calculate the weight of one column, I will use an online calculator to calculate the volume. It turned out to be 846 cubic meters. Then we multiply 846 by the average mass of a stone in a cube of 1,500 tons, that is, about 50% heavier, but it still needs to be put without crushing yourself. Well, the cherry on the cake is the upper bones. Here, the weight of one section is about 80 tons, and the height is 22 meters. In general, if we abstract from all the schools and teachings imposed on us from school, then scientists' arguments about primitive methods of building this complex begin to seem so stupid and ridiculous that we don't even want to discuss them. They just explain to us from childhood about primitive, but supposedly effective ancient technologies, so because of acquaintance they don't seem so crazy to us. No one can test it in practice, but I decided to go further. I was wondering why none of the locals are interested in how and who, in their opinion, erected these powerful structures. It turns out that the Arabs believed that Baalbek belonged to the ancient king Namrud, who once ruled in these lands. In one of the ancient Arabic manuscripts found in Baalbek, it says that King Namrud sent giants to restore Baalbek after the flood. It turns out that it was built before the flood, and apparently also people not our height, but who were these antediluvian builders? Locals associate the very construction of Baalbek with the biblical character Cain. They tell the sons of Adam that he built Baalbek as a shelter when God cursed him. In my opinion, the legend of the locals about the giants sounds much more plausible than the version of scientists about ropes and 75,000 slaves, as well as a chisel. Of course, stories about giants always sound like fiction or legend. It's hard to believe in them. In previous issues I have repeatedly shown you fossilized prints of huge human feet all over the world. This is a giant footprint in the Dragon Park. 400 kilometers from Vladivostok in Russia, in the village of Chistovodnaya, the size of the footprint from the heel to the fingertips is 1.5 meters in length. The step is completely imprinted and has retained its shape. The rock was in a soft state when the footprint was left, but subsequently fossilized. the estimated height of the giant is from 8 to 10 meters. Also, the Komsomolskaya Pravda internet portal reports the discovery of giant footprints on stones in China. The article says that the footprints were found in the southwest of the Chinese province of Guizhou, near the village of Pinyin. Mountain flight of the Perm region. Local legends say that the trail was left by an ancient giant. The footprint near Lake Balkhash. The footprint was discovered by scientist Vyacheslav Plakov. He found a lot of huge footprints, as well as teeth and fingerprints. Given the size of the prints, the human height was 18 meters. During the study, several dozen traces left by creatures unknown to science were found. There is a trace in the valley near Tariq, and these traces can be shown indefinitely since hundreds of them have been found in all the peoples of the world. There are legends about giants, also written about them in the Bible. At that time there were giants on earth, especially since the sons of God began to enter the daughters of men and they began to give birth to them. These are strong since ancient times, glorious people in Islam. They are called Adits, and I have already read this verse in previous issues and immediately want to answer the most popular comment on how they came into contact with ordinary women if they were giants. It does not say, but the following is written that the sons of God who descended from heaven to earth were giants. Their children who were born after such a relationship grew to extraordinary sizes. The truth of the sacred books is also evidenced by archaeological finds in the Caucasus Mountains, in which, in accordance with the legends, giants tried to escape from the encroaching waters. In general, they can be called anything, aliens, or otherwise, but this does not change the essence if some beings of essence managed to take human form. Then naturally they had colossal knowledge and technology with which they naturally made life easier for themselves on Earth. This, by the way, they correlate well with the theory when supposedly some higher intelligence created the universe and placed people there. If we start from it, it is quite possible that some rebels from a higher world incomprehensible to us decided to rest in this ideally created world, so to speak. But this is just a theory. But if we assume that ancient people were not small, then based on the scriptures their children grew up even more, thus summing up a small sum. Baalbek was most likely built by those people mentioned in sacred sources, as well as in the legends of all peoples of the world. Also, their size does not negate the presence of high technologies from these builders. And most likely some high-tech equipment. Also, according to legends, the giants possessed such knowledge to the level of which even modern science has not yet reached. The Indians, for example, recorded the legend of the white giants who lived on the territory of America countless moons ago. They dominated the whole earth and possessed the secrets of magic. According to the leader of the Comanche, the reign of the giants ended in an instant when the Almighty Great Spirit from heaven destroyed the white giants who forgot about justice and mercy, becoming two proud people. The Navajo tribe also kept legends about the life of giants. On earth they passed from father to son the legend of giants. In Tsarist Russia, there were also legends about white giants who owned mining technologies. They needed a lot of clean water from the bowels of the earth, and they dug deep wells with water that rose to the brim itself. The legend of the white giants who once inhabited the Amazon jungle also says that they were tall white-skinned people with an unusually high level of development, but the most amazing thing is how the locals called them flying people. Why such a strange name? In general, I have accumulated a lot of information about the giant race. I need to make a separate series of issues because everything can't fit into one. Well, now, I think it's worth finishing. Put likes if you want me to do a more detailed analysis of the topic with giants.
Тем самым подведем небольшой итог. Баальбек, скорее всего, был построен именно